Hello, guys. You're all very welcome to the Talk of the League podcast. My name is Matt Smith, and I've been joined again this week by Jamie McCoy. Jamie, how are you, mate?
I'm keeping all right, mate, for a Monday. Keeping well. How are you?
Oh, good. Had a decent weekend after the Everton result, I suppose, after the disappointment of the midweek games. But I'm sure we're going to get stuck into that. We're going to get stuck into. We have a lot of results to get through because we had midweek games and we also had weekend fixtures as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the results. We're going to fly through them really quickly, and then we're going to get stuck into the kind of games that stuck out a little bit. On this podcast, we're obviously going to talk about United's defence or lack of defence. We're also going to talk about Southampton and Wolves being dark horses this season, kind of flying under the radar a little bit. They're kind of hovering around those European spots, and they're kind of sneaking up there on the likes of Manchester United and West Ham, who are fighting for that fourth spot at the moment. So that's going to be interesting to see there as well. I was going to touch on the reason why Chelsea weren't around for the last 2 game weeks is because they were over winning the Club World Cup. So that was fair play to them. I actually watched the first game, the semi-final, and decent. The standard was actually fairly decent from the other team as well. They were actually unlucky as well. So Chelsea were fairly lucky in both games, I thought. But at the end of the day, their quality shone through there. We're also going to talk about Newcastle a bit as well. 3 wins on the bounce for Newcastle as well. A bit of bad news in terms of an injury to Trippier. It looks like he's had to break in a bone in his foot.
Yeah.
Bad time for him because he's had to score on 2 free kicks in 2 games, and he was given the captain's armband there on the weekend as well against Aston Villa. So listen, we have a bit to delve into. We're going to be chatting away for about an hour here on this stream. So we're going to get stuck in the midweek fixture starting on Tuesday evening. Newcastle 3, Everton 1. It was just one of those games where Newcastle were up for it and Everton weren't up for it. It was as simple as that. I think Everton had a couple of injuries in the first half. Yerry Mina and Demarai Gray went off in the first half. Frank Lampard made substitutions that he didn't want to make, obviously, and it kind of threw all the tactics out the window. Take nothing away from Newcastle. Newcastle wanted it more than Everton on the day. And I did say last week on the podcast that it was going to be a difficult game. Newcastle's first Premier League game back with their new signings, St James's Park under the lights. It was always going to be a difficult game. I said that I would have taken it. I said I would have taken the job before the game, but listen, we bounced back on the weekend with a good result. West Ham got a 1-0 win against Watford. Jared Bowen there on the score sheet for them as well. West Ham was a big win for them as well. They also got a decent enough result we're going to chat about there as well. Burnley and Manchester United 1-1. Now, I'm going to fly through these results first, okay, and then we're going to get stuck into it because I don't want to keep going back and forth. So that was 3 games on the Tuesday night, and those are results. On the Wednesday evening, Man City beat Brentford 2-0. Norwich had a 1-1 draw with Crystal Palace. Spurs and Southampton was an incredible game. Southampton got a great win there, 3-2. Bit of drama late on there as well. But obviously, probably game of the night then as well. It was great football on the Wednesday night. Was Aston Villa against Leeds. Leeds somehow came back from the death. Aston Villa had a man sent off as well late on, but 3-3 that game was an incredible game as well. Moving on to Thursday, then we had 2 games then on the Thursday. Liverpool welcome back Mo Salah for this game as well. They kind of ran out comfortable enough, 2-0 winners against Leicester. So decent win for them. I think Liverpool, in fairness to them, they done really well while their players were over at the AFCON.
Yeah, I agree.
We always kind of said that would Liverpool be the team they are if they didn't have Salah or Mane or that attacking threat. Diogo Jota is just an incredible player for them. He's going to be unbelievable. And Luis Diaz made his debut there as well. He's unreal as well. Arsenal 1-0 win against Wolves. Did you see the bizarre red card incident?
I didn't watch it, but from what I seen of it, from what I read of it, is that Wolves were unlucky not to come away with at least a point there. And I seen what Ruben Neves said about the celebrations of the Arsenal players, like as if they'd won something. So I think that's more respectful towards Wolves. I was actually having a look at the table just before I come on with you. And Wolves are doing really well. They're not too far behind ourselves. So they're having a great season, and to think that they've probably just let go one of their most influential players in the past 3-4 years, Adama. So there's clearly some harmony in that camp to allow a player of that quality to leave a level of that club. Obviously, Barcelona's a massive club for him to go back to. He come through their academy, so but they seem like they've got themselves together, and they've got a really tidy little squad there. They're all buying into the same. They're really impressing me, and Brighton are doing really well as well. I think they're going a little bit under the radar. Brighton, Southampton, and Wolves are teams to watch. They seem to be going in the right direction, league table wise. So it's going to be interesting. But Arsenal just need to plug away results, and keep the pressure on ourselves. West Ham, Tottenham. And that was a big result for Arsenal. I was obviously a bit gutted being a United fan that they actually won that game, considering I heard how well Wolves played. I actually spoke to one of my friends the day after, who's my best friend's from Portugal, and he likes Wolves quite a lot because of the Portuguese influence there. And he said that he was really impressed with the performance, and they were lucky not to come away with anything from the Emirates. So fair play to them, but good result for Arsenal. The black and white of it is they won the game, didn't they? So
that's it, yeah, as well. But the red card was so strange. Martinelli got 2 yellow cards in the same phase of play.
I heard about that.
He basically tried to stop a quick throw in, sorry. And the referee played on because they played advantage to Wolves. Martinelli ran down and basically pushed to the Wolves player in the back, therefore committing a second yellow card offence, and ended up getting 2 yellow cards in the same phase of play, which resulted in a red card. It was fairly strange. But listen, we'll move on. As I said, we did have 19 results to get through since our last podcast. We had then the weekend fixtures. Another 1-1 draw for Manchester United. You were at this game, weren't you? We're going to touch on it again, though, after the results. So I'll just fly through these results fairly quickly. Man United 1-1 draw with Southampton. Brentford played out a 0-0 draw with Crystal Palace. 2 poor results for Crystal Palace, with a draw against Norwich and a draw against Brighton. They're type of games that they probably want to be winning as well. I can see Rich there, Eagle Eye Football, in the comments. It'd be nice to get a comment from him in terms of what he thought of Crystal Palace's last 2 results. Obviously, Chelsea were supposed to be playing Arsenal on the weekend. That game was postponed due to Chelsea being in the Club World Cup. Massive win for Everton, 3-0 against Leeds. It was completely night and day from the Newcastle game.
Yeah, I'm interested to get your take on that a little bit later, actually, to see, because I didn't see the game, so I'm interested to see what you say.
We'll definitely get stuck into it now. We'll just have to be finished off these results. Big win for Brighton. As an Everton fan at the moment, I'm kind of looking around the teams that are around us, hoping that they get beaten. And Brighton had a big 2-0 win against Watford, so I was delighted with that. And obviously, to finish off the Saturday evening game was Man City ran out 4-0 winners against Norwich. Again, delighted with that result as an Everton fan. Then moving on to the Sunday fixtures, with 4 fixtures down on Sunday, which was obviously yesterday. Burnley beaten at home by Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp said that it was very windy. It was always going to be a tough game, and Liverpool ran out 1-0 winners. It could have been any score, but Burnley are one of those teams. I think I heard a stat there. They've only won 1 game this season, and they've 11 draws, and the rest have been defeats.
I think that sums up the way they play, isn't it? Like they're very sort of old school football. They play a 4-4-2, a very rigid 4-4-2. Like they get the ball wide, they try and get it into the front, and it's worked for a lot of years. But I feel like they're probably, I don't know what your take on Burnley is, but I feel like they're probably running out of ideas now. I think they're being worked out by a lot, and lack of quality as well. Like they don't have the best squad in the world, although they do make do with what they've got. Fair play to Sean Dyche as well. I actually rate him as a manager, but they just don't have the funds, do they, to be able to go in. I mean, V-Course was a very good sign. I think they've got to have a remarkable turnaround for them to stay up this year. I think they're as good as gone, to be honest. And that stat you've just read out, they have to turn some of them draws into victories in the second half of the season. Big task for them.
My take on Burnley is that I think it's their time to go, to be relegated. And obviously, you don't want to be turning around saying teams want to be relegated. I was saying the same the last couple of seasons, and I said it to Rich as well, Eagle Eye Football. I thought Palace were on that kind of same level as Burnley in terms of they were just kind of sitting there,
Yeah,
like happy to finish 16th and 17th. And there was always just two or three teams that were actually worse than them, ended up getting relegated ahead of them.
yeah,
Um, in terms of Crystal Palace, they've basically rolled the dice this season. They've gotten a new young manager in. They've released all of their dead wood, and they've brought in a bit of youth there as well. So they now have a vision of where they want to go, and they want to try and climb the table slowly but surely. You can't say the same about Burnley. Obviously Norwich are just a bit of a yo-yo club there as well. And at the moment, Watford are there, and I'll just see a comment from Rich there as well. Actually, what teams are likely to be dragged into the relegation battle? I looked at the league table there. I think Brentford are in serious trouble.
I was literally, I didn't want to talk over you, but I was going to say Brentford are, they're a worry. They are.
They've played 3 games more than everybody else below them. And I think if the teams below them win their games in hand, Brentford end up in the relegation zone. So obviously their form, they got most of their points on the board early on in the season, and their form has really, really dipped since then. They kind of lost that attacking spark that they had. They obviously, it was their first few games of the season in the new stadium, first time being in the Premier League, had the place rocking, I suppose, and they had that great win at Arsenal early on in the season. But they don't obviously they beat Everton a few weeks back as well, but everybody was beating Everton. That wasn't a great achievement. I can see them being dragged into it, and another team. After watching them on the weekend, and I do think it's more down to their injuries, will be Leeds. Slightly worried for Leeds. So at the moment, obviously Burnley, Norwich, and Watford are in the bottom three. But if there was two teams out of Brentford, Leeds, Newcastle, and Everton, obviously we're going to touch on Newcastle later on. I would say that Brentford and Leeds are struggling. Brentford just because I think the spark has run out a bit, and Leeds obviously because they're really struggling with injuries.
I was speaking to a good friend of mine back home. Name's Michael, big Leeds fan, really, really good guy. I was talking to him on Twitter, actually, direct message, and I was speaking to him about Leeds. He's a massive Leeds fan, and he just said they just haven't brought enough quality in the midfield positions, and they're just dying out in that position. They're trying to play Camille Glick as a defensive midfielder, and it's just not working. Obviously, Phillips has had his injury issues. Bamford's been out as well, and they just can't create. I think the only saving grace for Leeds is they can score goals. And I know they're not particularly scoring goals at the moment, but you got to think when Bamford gets back fit, Rafinha finds a little bit of form, because he will. He hasn't had a great season in comparison to his numbers last year. Rodrigo, players like that, maybe Dan James to a certain extent. They've got some decent wingers. You like to think that Leeds will probably just have enough, and the only reason and that is, for one, that's what Michael thinks, that they might just have enough. And I feel like the only reason that's the case this summer is there's 3 worse teams than Leeds. I think Leeds will go to grounds and pick up points that they're probably not supposed to pick up towards the end of the season. And I just think there's 3 worse teams in the league. That might only be Leeds' saving grace this season, because they've not been very good at all. And they just haven't invested. They spent a lot of money on Dan James, and they probably could have dealt with spending a few more quid in other areas of the pitch. But I think they're another team that they're very one-dimensional. They've got one way of playing, and if that doesn't work, they look bang average. Some days you watch Leeds and think, bloody hell, these are so exciting, and then you watch them again, like at the weekend, and think, what are they trying to achieve, like playing like this? So they're such a yo-yo team. But I totally agree well on the Palace thing. I thought they were borderline sort of going down that route as well, and shout out to Eagle Eyed Football as well. I see he's out with his missus as well, and he's still tuning into the chat to the show. So big up to you for that one, mate. That's awesome. I love that. Don't know if the wife's going to be too happy with you, mate, but thank you for joining us anyway, and do appreciate the comments as always from everyone that puts them in. But I think they were brave. They went and sort of went down a different route. Completely went for a completely different style of manager. He's brought a lot more flair to the team, like signing wise, and they look like they're on the up. But I just wanted to mention them for one because the gentleman's in the chat when he's out with his wife, which I think is absolutely awesome. And two, you mentioned them earlier, so yeah, big shout out, Eagle Eyed Football class.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. There was 3 more games. Obviously, we'll just round off the results. Then we'll get stuck into our topics of the week then as well. Big win for Newcastle against Aston Villa, 1-0. Kieran Trippier free kick, which originally was given as a penalty, and then they VAR ruled out the penalty, gave a free kick, and they still scored it anyway. Obviously, we're going to touch on it a bit later on. Massive blow for Newcastle due to the fact that Kieran Trippier broke his foot in the same game.
Metatarsal.
Yeah, so that's him out for 4 to 6 weeks, I'd say, as well. It's a busy period for Newcastle, trying to get points, trying to get away from the relegation zone. Obviously, he's a right back, but he is one of their more creative players. So it's going to be interesting to see. He got the captain's armband there on the weekend as well. Another loss for Spurs at home, this time to Wolves. Spurs' third game on the bounce to get beaten. It's Conte's first time he's gone 3 games with 3 defeats since 2011, apparently. Back in Atalanta, he was managing them. And then we rounded off the weekend's fixtures with a 2-2 draw between Leicester and West Ham. West Ham grabbed a point late on in that game with a Craig Dawson header that actually went off his shoulder more than anything else. More like it was actually hit his arm, but because of that rule of the above the sleeve sponsor, ridiculous. But anyway, 2-2 draw. Now let's get stuck into our topics. I have written down here: United defense is terrible. You were at the game on the weekend, I believe, against Southampton. 2 draws, 1-1 draw, obviously with Burnley, 1-1 draw with Southampton. You were at the game, weren't you, on the weekend?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was at Old Trafford, unfortunately.
So, take us through, obviously, the game that you were at, what the experience was like, obviously, again, and then what are your opinions on Manchester United at the moment? Because obviously it was very vocal. The pundits were very vocal, obviously, this weekend in terms of lack of the players' lack of wanting to defend. Yeah. Ralph Hasenhüttl came out as well, which was very interesting, and he turned around and said that when United don't have the ball, they don't have the defensive gears, so we can get. They're
lazy. Yeah.
Basically, it was a roundabout way of saying that Manchester United players are lazy in defence, which is very interesting. What was your take on the whole thing? Man United's recent run of form as well, and do you agree with Ralph Hasenhüttl's comments?
Yeah, we'll get onto his comments in a minute. I did see them, but I think, to be honest with you, taking you through my match day experience without dragging it out too long, the atmosphere outside the ground was really strange to start with. It was very eerie. It was like there was a really nervous tension in the air, which I can't even describe it really. That's the only way I can describe it. It was like we kind of knew. The game itself, we done well for the first 20, 25 minutes maybe. We were creating chances, and Ralph tweaked a couple of players positionally, and it just unbalanced us a little bit. I think he was trying to get Rashford into the game. He switched him wingers with Sancho, who was a major threat to them in the first 15, 20 minutes. He was getting the ball. He was getting round Walker-Peters. He was creating chances, and we just couldn't get that goal. And then we finally did. And then what you're thinking? Then you're going to go on and kick on, and we obviously had another goal disallowed. But you could see after half an hour that we were just stepping back a little bit, and Southampton are a very comfortable team on the ball. And they just started sort of patiently getting back into the game, and you could see it in the stands. I mean, I always say, like, you'll know yourself when you go to Goodison, like, the eyes don't lie, and you can notice little things, and I could just see them growing in confidence, growing, and they were getting a couple of chances, didn't take them, and we were just very lethargic. We took like 6 yards back from where we were playing on the front foot. Players went hiding, and then for the rest of the game, they used the ball really well. They pressed us, and they showed us how to press. And we were supposed to be the pressing team now. We don't press. Like, do you know what I mean? There was just no quality in midfield. Luke Shaw was giving the ball away constantly on the left-hand side. His positional play was dreadful at the weekend. Him and Maguire are a massive problem because they both feed off of trying to help each other, and it's just an absolute calamity. And I do. He's one of my favourite United players, to be honest with you, but he was very bad at the weekend. And I feel like there's a down tools culture at Man United at the moment. It's just like the players they've give up. It's just like, right, okay, then we're out of that tournament. Right, oh God, let's just grind it out and get to the summer and do as minimal as we can. And I feel like you can see it on the pitch as well. There's players that are hiding, like you've got McTominay, who's in the midfield buzzing around and putting challenges in and making himself busy and trying to sort of influence the game, but he's not brave enough to pass through the lines. It's so slow. It's so lethargic. Every time we got the ball, it went backwards, and it gives Southampton a base to set again, reset. And they got that solid back five in place. The midfielders were chomping into the challenges and getting stuck in. And when they got the ball, they just used the ball really well, giving up cheap possession. They were playing it up to Brozier, who held the ball up really well and spun Maguire like a 10-pin piece at the end of the game, which was just summed up his afternoon, really. And I feel like Hussein Hartel's comments are absolutely bang on. And you know what? As a player, the one criticism you don't want is your attitude and your accountability to run and track your men and stuff like that. And you've seen it. I don't know if you watched Match of the Day, Matt, but you can see it. They showed that it's that lack of. I don't know whether it's Ralph telling the front three to stay up, so that's why they don't track back, or whether it's just, it's gone now. And if that's the case, and you're not tracking back at that level, you're at the wrong club, because we can't afford to have. We don't have the quality that we used to at Man United. We have good players, yes, but as a team, we're not playing well, and you can't afford to carry players. And unfortunately, we're carrying 3 or 4 at the moment every single week, and 2 of them are in the centre back. 2 of them are in the defensive line. Maguire, there's just no accountability for performances. There's no right, if you play well, you'll be in the team. Because if that was the case, and there was accountability, Maguire wouldn't have been in the team at the weekend. He's having an absolute shocking season so far. And he's consistently playing, which tells me either Ralph is very naive or someone's telling him they have to play. And I think, for me, people might disagree with me. You might disagree with me. And if you do, please come at me. I think that Maguire, because he's the captain, and it's like we can't drop the captain because that's going to cause even more media frenzy around us. And look at the state of the media circus round Man U anyway. But I feel like that's the only way I can justify him playing. The fact that they just don't want the media coverage of dropping Man United's captain. Because if it's on a footballing basis, he should be nowhere near the team at the moment. Lindelof and Phil Jones should start ahead of him for me at the moment. His head is completely gone. He panics when he's got the ball. He's 5 yards behind the defensive line because he's petrified of getting done in behind. His passing ability, when he's got the ball at his feet, he's so negative. He's looking for the easy option every time instead of being brave and progressing the play and taking the ball forward. He's got so much time on the ball sometimes, Matt. and he just will not physically go into that next phase of the pitch, which tells me he's scared to drop out of his position. And then Luke Shaw didn't have the best of games, but Maguire is positionally he's terrible. Like heading ability wise, when the ball's coming up from a long kick, he looks nervous. And I just feel like someone needs to be brave to say he can't play at the moment. And for me, what's Lindelof done wrong? You know, he hasn't done anything, which tells me it's not a footballing decision. So, when you're dealing with that, and we'll never know. I'll never be privileged enough to know whether that is the case, whether someone is whispering. Ronaldo's not been good for 3 games, mate, yet he's still in the team. And I get we don't have a lot of options with the whole Greenwood thing. I'm not going to go into the thing with him. Cavani wasn't available. Martial was gone. I get there's not a lot of options, but be brave, man. That's all I want to see. Just be brave. And for me, it's very predictable. And an old fella Rose from me nailed it on the head, really, when he at the end of the game he said, "You don't even need to watch this team anymore. You know, Man U will drop points."
Yeah,
and it's like the rivals are not looking at us now and worrying about us, mate. Sorry, I've went on a bit there, but I just wanted to try and get it out there.
I agree with you, right? But the problem with when you have a defender and a back line that aren't comfortable, and you have a defense, especially a centre-back partnership, that your team doesn't believe in, or your goalkeeper doesn't believe in, or they're leaking goals, they're lacking confidence, you have to defend from the front. You have to try and defend from the other team's half, not your own half, right? For me, looking at Everton, right, Michael Keane, centre-back for Everton, is a confidence player, right? If he has centre-forwards and midfield players passing around them, in and around them, he literally reminds you of Harry Maguire. He turns very slowly and stuff like that. On the weekend, Alex Iwobi, which I was surprised at, by the way, that he was even in the starting 11. He's probably man of the match on the weekend. He never stopped running. Him and Anthony Gordon and Richarlison. The second the Leeds centre halves or the fullbacks got the ball, they were on them. They didn't let the ball get anywhere near Michael Keane or Mason Holgate. Mason Holgate and Michael Keane didn't have to worry about defending that much because the lads ahead of them were defending for them, right?
Yeah.
So bringing that back to Manchester United, Ronaldo, Rashford, and Sancho. The second they lost the ball in attack, they just stopped.
Yeah.
You had Bruno Fernandes. In fairness to him, he was trying to join in on the attack. Man United would lose the ball. Southampton would play the ball into midfield, into Ward-Prowse or Romeu. And if you actually watch it, Match of the Day, like you said, Match of the Day did it. Southampton would end up having 6 players or 7 players attacking against Man United's 5 or 6 defenders. Yeah. Because Sancho, Rashford, Ronaldo, and Bruno Fernandes and or Pogba were out of the game with one pass through the midfield. It's just laziness. Yeah. Kyle Walker-Peters had the easiest game of his life away from home at Old Trafford because Sancho didn't track him the whole game.
Yeah, he played really well, to be fair, and like when Sancho
he played well, Jamie, he played well because Sancho let him play well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's Rashford. I've never seen a bigger drop off of a player.
Yeah,
from having the world at his feet, the potential that he has, and when that front line loses the ball, the three of them, Ronaldo, Sancho, and Rashford, the three of them, their heads just drop. And what happens then is it goes from 11 against 11 when United have the ball attacking to 11 against 7 or 8 Man United defenders.
Yeah.
And I think until they sort that out.
Desire, mate. Like I don't know. Like I don't know if you've played football. I presume you've probably played football. And it's desire, mate. Like you got to take some accountability for your own performances. And if you don't want to track back, I'll be honest with you. I ain't gonna sit here and say I loved tracking back. I was a half decent footballer when I was younger, but I didn't like the defensive aspect of the game. But I tried my best. Do you know what I mean? Because I've never been a good defender. If you watch me in 7-a-side, I probably look terrible. I'm chasing shadows. But when I had the ball, I was very comfortable on a football pitch. But it's desire. Like, I'd always track back. I'd always try and come back and help my team, even if it was just sort of putting a bit of pressure on the guy and not necessarily putting the tackle in. It's just, I always think that football is very high, but it's football's football. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have the desire to be able to want to play the game, and no one can make you track back. And I feel like that's the beautiful thing about football. What's this? What's he saying? Jamie, of course, Matt plays football. He's Irish, for God's sake, yeah. But they have lots of different games in Ireland, Gaelic football and whatever else. So I don't know if he's played football or not. I'm just asking the question, Trevor. But cheers for knocking me again, mate. I can see all your comments.
I actually scored a goal playing for Manchester United, believe it or not, because I played for a team called Shelbourne in Ireland, and we were amalgamated with Manchester United. And we used to play for the Manchester United Academy. Like, they'd pick players from Shelbourne to play for the Manchester United Academy. So I can actually say that I've scored a goal for Manchester United. So there you go.
There you go. Then.
But yeah, listen, we won't spend too much time on it. But in terms of what United need to do for the rest of the season, because I think it's been vocalised and highlighted over the last few weeks, few weekends especially. There's no fight there. They've no leaders in the team. They have a player in Pogba who, when he plays well, he's just putting himself in the shop window for a new team to come in from in the summer. You have Sancho, in fairness to him, I think going forward he's trying his best, but he needs to work on his defensive capabilities in order to improve as a player for the Premier League. Rashford needs to be dropped from the squad completely and told, get your head focused on the game again and start helping out your team defensively. And if Ronaldo decides he wants to leave in the summer, it'll probably be the best thing for both parties, because I don't see how United can go forward with Ronaldo when he's 38 next season. To be honest with you, you'd be better off bringing Zlatan back, because he offers more than Ronaldo at the moment, in my opinion.
Half of that team is checked out, mate. Trust me.
But that's it. What did they do? They spent too much money. They spent too much money on that team. So what are they supposed to do? Spend another 500 million to get rid of Maguire, to get another centre half in, to partner with Varane?
I know what I would do, but it ain't gonna happen. I'd get rid of all the big players and just start again, and have the mindset of, right, the next 4 years is going to be tough, but at the end of that 4 years, hopefully, we'll be back where in and around that sort of top 2, top 3 position, because I feel like they're spending fortunes every single summer, like you've just said, mate, and it's not working. I haven't won a trophy in 6 years.
Do you think United need to do what Arsenal have done?
Yeah, I do, mate. And whether they go and they need to bring a manager in who's going to buy into that as well, and they need to take the pressure off of the manager, and the fan base need to realise as well, look, this is going to be tough for the next couple of years. We're probably going to buy players what we're used to buying, but we have to do something different. If something's not working, you have to change what you're doing. And I'd honestly, hand on heart, don't believe going out and signing a Declan Rice for £100 million is going to sort the problem. There's so many issues in that team, and I feel like you could name them. I mean, I don't want to talk about Man U anymore because we've got more to talk about. But there's about 8 or 9 players that won't be there next season, so that you've got to replace them already. Whether you bring youth players in, whether Garner comes back into the squad next year, it can't be any worse than it is. And it's amazing that we're 5th in the league. It just baffles me how we're in that position, because we're being so bad. But I seen that comment from Michael earlier about Ollie. Like, I don't agree with Ralph's a joke of a manager. I don't really think that's fair at all, to be honest with you. He's come into an absolute car crash of a club to get it on some sort of stable tracks, and he's got players that are just not buying into what he's doing. So
I think Man United is an absolute circus at the moment. I think it's an absolute circus. They have a manager in place there who I think the players know he's not going to be there in 4 or 5 months' time. They've players there that don't want to be there. They're leaking stuff to the press. There's apparently a few players are slagging off the assistant manager, saying he's
it's disgusting, by the way.
It's an embarrassing, it's a joke. But the worst thing about it is, is that they loaned out 2 players in Martial and Donny van de Beek, who ended up having man of the match performances for their respective clubs they went to. Donny van de Beek was absolutely fantastic. I'm not just saying that. Now, in fairness, it wouldn't take much to walk into Everton's midfield at the moment, but he was absolutely phenomenal. They played him. They actually kind of played him as a bit of a 6-2 midfield with Allen.
Yeah, but apparently he couldn't play that.
Apparently couldn't play it, but my God,
exactly.
he was screaming for the ball off the centre half, screaming for the ball off the fullbacks. He was so calm on the ball. There'd be a nice little simple 5-yard pass right in front of him, and he'd play a slick 20-yard pass. He actually played a no look pass with 10 minutes to go in the second half. I think the Everton fans have fallen in love with him, which I think it's going to be hard to say goodbye to him, because obviously I think the better he plays, which means United are going to want to hang on to him even more, unless the player turns around and said he wants to stay at Everton. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And obviously,
I think there's a
Martial,
buzz at Everton though. He's
there is a
going
buzz at
into
Everton.
it's a fresh start again, isn't it? And I feel like that's perfect for Donny van de Beek and maybe for Dele Alli. I don't know how he's got on. You'll have to tell me in a minute. But the atmosphere and the tension within the club at Man U and the whole demeanor of everything, it just didn't sit well with. I think Donny was caught in the middle of a crossfire, to be honest with you. And I remember speaking to Phil Brown, who's a fantastic journalist and based in America, that does work on United, and he was even saying he's kind of in the middle of the two sort of groups, and he hasn't really fitted in, and maybe that's why he just didn't gel with teammates, and that's why he was left out, because it can't be on footballing ability. Everybody knows, and I just feel like it's the perfect opportunity for him at Everton to go over. And people are criticising him for not going to Palace, but his family live in Manchester. Going to Everton's a much easier move logistically for his family to deal with. They can stay where they are, and it was a sensible deal. And it's great seeing him do well for Everton, but part of me it pissed me off, to be honest with you, because I thought he should be doing that for my team.
That's it, because it happens all the time with Everton. When Everton let go of players who maybe you might say they've been underperforming or whatever, and then they go to their new team and they're flying. It always annoys me when you see like players like Ademola Lookman when he was doing well at Leicester, doing well at Fulham, but he wasn't. You mightn't say he wasn't given the opportunity to do that at Everton and stuff like that. But listen, I'm delighted the way Everton played on the weekend. I was, like I said earlier on, Ali came off the bench. He had about 15, 20 minutes, I think, and he nearly had one of the assists of the season. You can tell by him that he has a bit of a presence. I don't think he's I'm not going to say that he's not 100% match fit yet, but I think he's just lacking that slight little bit of sharpness. There's a bit of rawness to him, but he was. He linked up really, really well with Iwobi at one point and whipped the ball in, and Rondon nearly scored the goal of the season. I swear to God, it would have been unbelievable to cap off a fantastic win. But Everton, from the Tuesday night game against Newcastle, just weren't up for it. And obviously Frank Lampard gave them a kick in the arse and just said, listen, lads, if you want to play for me, this is how you have to play. Iwobi starting the game for me, and I think for a lot of Everton fans, was a massive shock. He was absolutely incredible. I still think he lacks Alex Iwobi. I still think he lacks that kind of cutting edge in terms of final ball quality and stuff like that.
Yeah, he did at Arsenal as well.
Yeah, but I think he showed that he was determined, and he showed a bit of passion there on the weekend. And that's, at the end of the day, that's all Everton fans want to see, is that team playing with a bit of passion. Richarlison was fantastic. Gordon was fantastic. Van de Beek was fantastic. The whole back line were brilliant. John Joe Kenny, who's probably our third choice right back, ended up starting at left back, and he did 2 Cruyff turns and then nutmeg Rafinha, Roberto Carlos style. It was incredible. But massive 3 points for Everton. The other results went our way this weekend as well. And we have a massive game this weekend coming up against Southampton. Now, we just want to touch on Southampton a little bit, because Southampton's last 3 games have been against Man City, Spurs, and Manchester United, and they've managed to get 5 points out of those games. Which, to be fair, if you're a Southampton fan looking at those games, you would have said, I'd probably take 2 or 3 points out of those games. I think Ralph Hasenhüttl is doing a very good job with
He's
the
a
players
brilliant manager.
at his disposal. I think they go through patches where they let themselves down in the season. They might go 3 or 4 games without a win, but then all of a sudden they kick into gear. I think that young striker Broja is top quality. He's on loan from Chelsea, and
Yeah,
I
he
think
is.
I don't see Chelsea wanting to play him next season. I think they might try and cash in on him. So I'll be interested to see where he ends up. Obviously, Southampton will probably try and buy him, but I can see Chelsea wanting probably 30-35 million for him. Obviously, the better he plays, the more money, the more euros is gonna, or the more pounds is gonna get added on the top of the fee. But he's been absolutely fantastic. James Ward-Prowse has to be in the England squad for the World Cup. He just is the
Quality player.
epitome. Obviously, it's going to be hard for him to get a starting spot in the squad, but he definitely has to be in the squad, I think, in terms of his
No, I would agree.
determination, his leadership skills, his dead ball ability. I love him at Everton, and I'm sure probably Manchester United fans will probably say he'd do well at a top club like United as well. Romeu is just one of those players he's just solid. Walker Peters,
He was
Fraser,
fantastic at the weekend.
yeah, Fraser Foster as well, who was literally blown out there. He was third or fourth choice keeper there, went on
Yeah,
loan for Celtic and all that. He's been fantastic the last few games as well for them as well. He was brilliant against Spurs there as well, and he was obviously pulled off a few great saves as well against Man City. I think Southampton, along with Wolves, are the two teams who I think are going to challenge for those Europa League spots. I don't think they have enough juice to get into the top four. I think
no.
that will be between the likes of United, West Ham, Arsenal, and Spurs. I think in terms of the last 14 or 15 games of the season, I think the Europa League fight is going to be a serious fight. You obviously have Leicester who are letting themselves down big time this season.
Yeah.
You have Wolves there, you have Southampton there, you have Arsenal there, you have Spurs there as well. I think the fifth and sixth spots are going to go down literally to the last game of the season. It's going to be so interesting. Now, on the flip side of that, you could say that the teams like Manchester United, like Spurs, are bottling it, and that's what's
Yeah.
what's allowing the likes of Wolves and Southampton get up there.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's such a shame that Everton have been so bad over the last 14 or 15 games, because where Southampton and Wolves are at the moment is where Everton should be at the moment. And it's so frustrating. On paper, squad depth, if Everton are fully fit, they probably, in my opinion anyway, obviously there's a bit of bias there, I don't know what you think, but they're 100% the top 10 team on paper
Yeah.
with a fully fit squad. And you could argue that they're seventh or eighth and then pushing for that fifth or sixth spot. And they've let themselves down massively this season. But in fairness to Southampton and Wolves are just one of those teams that they don't seem to concede loads of goals, and they just kind of keep the clean sheets, and they score the odd goal here and there. And obviously, Adama Traore's left and all that, but I don't think he's going to be that big of a miss for Wolves. I think Adama Traore was used just to terrify the left back for the team, and he was used as a bit of a distraction for the other teams. I think Jimenez coming back to goal scoring form is massive for them.
Yeah.
Their midfielders and Moutinho and Neves are fantastic as well, and their back line is decent as well, and they have a really good goalkeeper as well. To be honest, I didn't know what they were doing, bringing in the manager, but he seems to know what he's doing. His English
Bruno
has
Lage.
improved. His English has improved massively as well over the last few months. I've noticed in the interviews,
Has a
and he just
really
seems
good
to,
reputation in Portugal.
yeah.
He went to
But I just
Benfica
think,
and it didn't really
I just
happen. But if you look at Benfica now, don't know if you'll pay attention to Portuguese football at all, Matt, but they're in crisis. Like Benfica, they're kind of doing what United are doing in real English league as well. They're in the same sort of predicament. My friend back home, my best friend's a Benfica fan, so I kind of know what's going on by just talking football with him, really. And he said to me when they signed Bruno Lage that he's got potential to be a very good manager. It's just whether he's good enough to navigate Wolves. But I feel like the quality aspect within Benfica's squad and Wolves isn't too dissimilar with regards to quality this season. Benfica have got a better squad than Wolves on paper, but I just feel like they're getting it right, and they've been very intelligent with signings. They brought in Trincao, very good player, and it just seems to be working. And you know what? Like, football comes down to good recruitment sometimes, and Wolves have had very good recruitment. What's me saying here? Benfica a constant issue because they keep slaying with sport and everything. Yeah, well, yeah. I thought they were bringing George Jesus back and thinking he was going to be the savior again because he done really well in Brazil and he done well at Benfica the first time. But Sporting Lisbon have went down the same way as Wolves. Really, they've just bought well, they've recruited well, as in they've brought through good young players as well. And I feel like like Ruben Amorim was one of the most sought after managers in Europe. RB Leipzig have tried to get him, so his stock's rising over in Portugal. And same with Lage. He's come over from Portugal. He got sacked from Benfica, but he's come to a nice little environment for a Portuguese manager because there's a lot of the Portuguese players there, and he's just hitting the ground running, really. And you credit to him, man. Fantastic season. If I was a Wolves fan, I'd be in the clouds at the moment.
Yeah, like they've done really well in fairness to them, and Wolves were a team that I was worried for when Nuno left them and stuff like that, and they obviously sold Jota to Liverpool, and I was kind of saying where's this team kind of gonna go, and then I thought it was a strange one that they sold their keeper, to Roma. Yeah, Patricio. I thought it was a strange one that they sold him, but they brought in Jose Sa, and he's done really, really well for them. In fairness, he's kept a rake of clean sheets and stuff like that. But in terms of like that top six race, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Like I think top three is boxed off. I think with Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea going to be in there. Fourth spot is wide open. Fifth spot is wide open. Sixth, seventh, and eighth spot is wide open as well. It's just a case of who wants it more. Jesus, like if Everton go on a bit of a run, they could even get eighth spot if they wanted it over the last few games. But I think the fixture list isn't kind to Everton.
Over the next few weeks. A lot of games, isn't there, to play? I know you were saying
still a lot of games left.
Yeah, there is a lot of games.
Right, so just going to touch on quickly before we go into the upcoming fixtures. Newcastle, obviously 3 massive results for them. They've nearly doubled their points tally in the last 2 weeks since the January transfer window. You have to say that, is it a case that they're just riding on a crest of a wave, or do you feel as though they've just gotten maybe a little bit lucky, caught Everton at a good time? Aston Villa were absolutely atrocious there against Newcastle as well. Steven Gerrard said Newcastle didn't have to do much to beat us. Obviously, it was a home game against Everton. It was a home game against Villa. Obviously, the crowd is massive for them in terms of support, and they were riding on a crest of a wave. If Newcastle bump into a team now, and I just want to check quickly who they're playing on the weekend. If I can see, they're actually away on Saturday to West Ham. Say, for example, in that game, Jamie, right? Say if West Ham beat Newcastle 2 or 3-0, right? Is that their bubble burst?
No, I don't think so. Because there's just a massive buzz around the club at the moment. The fan base is bouncing. I mean, I've lived here for 11 years and I've never seen anything like this. It's just there's so much positivity coming from the club, from the owners to the fan base, the work being put in for the fan base. They have a group here called War Flags that have done amazing work. You've probably seen the pictures on social media of all the flags and stuff. And there's just everyone's drinking from the same cup, shall we say, eating from the same pot, is it? And everybody's just buying into it. And they're on a high. Like, they've obviously got a lot of financial backing now. They've got intelligent people running the club. They're bringing in Ashworth from Brighton, who's a
massive
director of football. Yep. whose recruitment's been very good. Apparently, he had the inside link to the Dan Burn signing. So he's a local lad. They've brought another local lad. They love a local lad up here. Do you know what I mean? He's from Blythe, and they're just on a roller coaster, the fan base at the moment. And if they can stay up, they'll be a real force next year, I think, because they'll go heavy in the transfer market. I think they signed intelligently.
We touched on it last week, didn't we? We kind of said that their signings were fairly intelligent.
Trippier's issue is a problem for them because they don't have adequate cover right back. They've probably got enough to get by, but I just feel like they're on a positivity run at the moment, and obviously getting that result against you boys really helped give them momentum going into the home fixture again against Villa. And I watched the first half of the game, and I was impressed with the intensity of Newcastle. I thought Aston Villa were flat as a pancake, and I actually predicted Villa would beat Newcastle. I just felt they would have had a little bit too much quality with the way Coutinho's playing, but no, I was completely wrong. And it was a fantastic free kick. I actually told my mum's husband, who's a Newcastle fan, he would score because he was gutted it wasn't a penalty. And I was like, I tell you what, Trippier will score from here. And he did. So that's a bit of a blow for them, Kieran's injury. But other than that, Chris Wood's signing's very intelligent for me. Holds up the ball really well. He gives them an outlet. You can play into him. You can play the ball to his head. He's comfortable holding the ball up. Into play. And I think to a certain extent, Eddie Howe had very good recruitment at Bournemouth when he bought within the English league or the British league, shall we say. When he started venturing out and trying to take them a little bit further than where they were, he got caught unstuck when he started going into the Spanish market and recruiting players. That's when they went down. So I feel like he understands that. He's went out and bought very consistent Premier League players in Matt Target, who was brilliant at the weekend. Dan Burn, who was man of the match. Chris Wood from a relegation rival. Let's be honest, they took a player from another relegation-threatened team. And it just seems to be clicking, and it's taken a lot of pressure off of Maximum because there's more quality players in the team now. They've brought Guimaraes in, who the fan base are buzzing to watch play, so it will be interesting. I just feel like they're going in the right direction, and I think they'll comfortably stay up in the end. But yeah, I don't know if that's explained it to you. I probably went round the houses a bit with that, but I think their bubble is just going to get bigger. It's not going to burst.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they cope without Trippier there. He's obviously massive for them in terms of creation and stuff like that. Their set pieces and stuff like that. Like, if you think about it in terms of whipping the balls into the box, if you have Chris Wood and Dan Burns in the box and you have Trippier whipping the ball in, it's obviously a threat. Whereas before they didn't have any of that. They didn't have Chris Wood, they didn't have Dan Burns, and they didn't have Trippier. Obviously they still have players that have quality in terms of getting the ball in, like John Joe Shelby and stuff like that. But I think if their next 3 games are West Ham, Brentford, and Brighton, their next 2 games are away, and then they have Brighton at home. If they can get some form of result out of West Ham, get 3 points away to Brentford, and then if they can get a result at home to Brighton as well, I think they'll be absolutely fine. The problem, I'd say, with Newcastle, they needed to get the points on the board quickly, and they needed to get them, which they've done that. They've gotten out of the relegation zone, and in fairness to them, they've done really well to do that. There's a stretch of games for Newcastle now coming up, and it's not looking good, really, to be honest with you. It wouldn't make... I mean, they finished the season off Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, and then they have an away game against Burnley, and that could be massive. They also have the likes of Chelsea, Crystal Palace, and Spurs coming up after those 3 games I mentioned before. So they've done the right thing at the moment. They've gotten points on the board early, and obviously with the games against West Ham and Brentford coming up, I think they take a point against West Ham at the moment. They'll be looking for all 3 points against Brentford, and they'll be looking for all 3 points at home to Brighton as well. If they can get 6 or 7 points out of those next 3 games, it gets them on to, I think, 27 points, and it pulls them further away from that bottom three. And you could see the likes of Brentford being dragged into it, and maybe even Leeds as well, like we said before. So what we're going to do is now, Jamie, we've chatted enough about Newcastle, we've chatted enough about Manchester United. I'd say what we'll do next week, unless something mad happens, we just won't talk about Everton or Manchester United next week. How about we do something like that? We're going to have a look at the fixtures. Obviously, Manchester United are playing tomorrow night against Brighton. It's a rearranged game. It's a 8:15 kickoff. And then on this weekend, we have obviously West Ham and Newcastle that we talked about. Arsenal against Brentford. That could be another loss for Brentford, and could drag them further down again.
Yeah.
Aston Villa are going to be wanting to get back to winning ways against Watford, which I'm hoping they actually kind of do. Brighton, I hope they get a win against Burnley as well. Crystal Palace against Chelsea, that could be a decent game to watch. Liverpool at home to Norwich. Southampton are at home to Everton. And then Man City and Spurs, which is a big game, which rounds off the Saturday fixtures. Then you have Leeds at home to Manchester United, which is it's going to be a tasty game. If Leeds turn up, I think they can take United. I just think United have zero interest in terms of the playing squad. They've zero interest in China. If Leeds turn up and want the battle, it'll be a case of whoever wants it more on the day in that game. And I think Leeds have enough juice to do Manchester United. I just don't think Manchester United are playing well enough at the moment to beat anybody. And the last few results have proven that. And then obviously we're rounding off the weekend's fixtures with Wolves at home to Leicester, which will be another good game. Two decent games on the Sunday, in fairness. Any of those games stick out to you, Jamie?
Yeah, to be fair, I was just going to pick up on you after you'd reeled the games off there to just say to Reese in the comments, just speaking about Leicester there, that we will delve into Leicester next week 100% because they are having a massive drop off at the moment. That will be a good fixture. That we've praised Wolves tonight, so it'll be interesting to see what plays out in that game. Leeds versus United's a massive game as well. I think Leeds are probably the perfect opponent for Man U at the moment for the way they will attack us, and it will give us a little bit of space to maybe hit them on the counter attack. So that will be an interesting game as well. Be interesting to see how you boys do, but I'm totally fine with not speaking about United next week, mate. To be honest, it's a bit of a blessing. At the moment, it's always good to get your take on your team because I don't pay that much attention to the other teams in the league. Obviously, not since I've started this. I generally just watch United and that's it, really. I watch Celtic if they're on Sky, but obviously doing this now every week with you, which is great. It gives me a little bit of an incentive to watch more football and have a little look at who's around who and stuff like that. So I'll definitely be keeping my eyes out to see if I can take a couple of games in. But yeah, there's some big fixtures. Like you say, West Ham will want to get back to winning ways against Newcastle. That's going to be a good game. Watford need points. So there's loads of games out there that's really interesting. Burnley have got to get a win. If they don't get a win in the next couple of fixtures, you'd probably say they were as good as gone. So there's so many different aspects of the league. I mean, we could break it down into 4 or 5 teams each sector and talk about part of the league. Yeah. But the Europa League run is interesting, and the relegation. So some big fixtures and lots of talking points next week, mate.
Yeah, so obviously every week we're going to try and obviously it's the Talk of the League podcast. Jamie's a Man United fan. I'm an Everton fan. We're obviously going to talk more. We're obviously going to cover more, and we're obviously going to know more about those two teams because they're the two teams that we support. I think that's obvious, and I think it's our job to obviously highlight other teams in terms of, as it's the Talk of the League podcast, it's not Talk of the Everton and Manchester United podcast. We've highlighted Newcastle tonight. We've highlighted Southampton tonight. We've highlighted Wolves tonight. We're obviously going to go around and obviously talk about the big talking points like United's defence. United's defence took a hammering over the weekend from all the pundits. So we've talked about that as well. But obviously, if a team comes out of nowhere, like the likes of Palace, and has a massive result against a big team, we're obviously going to talk about them, talk about their season. I'm sure we'll have something different to talk about next weekend as well, or next Monday when all these fixtures are done and dusted. But obviously, Manchester United playing tomorrow night. Jamie, I'll just get your thoughts quickly on that one before we go. Um, Obviously, you'd say Manchester United against Leeds on the weekend is a huge game. Every game for Manchester United at the moment is a massive game. You're looking at their last run of fixtures, the last run of results. United 2 or 3 years ago would have been getting 3 points in all the last 3 or 4 games they played in.
Yeah.
Drawn at Burnley, drawn with Southampton at home. It's not good enough. It's not good enough for a team of Man United standards. It's not good enough for a team of Manchester United's quality. I firmly believe that if you have a team that's underperforming, but you have players there who are good enough, they can get results against the likes of Burnley. They can get results against the likes of Southampton. Now, in fairness, Southampton are on a crest of a wave there. But when you're playing Manchester United at Old Trafford, you don't let Southampton play football. And Southampton had a decent amount of possession. Their wing backs basically had a free ride all game because Rashford and Sancho didn't track back. And Ward-Prowse and Romeo had the run of the midfield. And I think until something changes, like Brighton are going to Old Trafford tomorrow night, and you could honestly do a flip of a coin who's going to win that game. If Brighton turn up and put it to Manchester United, like it's one of those things. Like obviously, it's frustrating and it's easy for me to.
Even you're getting stressed out talking about them, Matt.
No, but
imagine what it's like for me. My hair's coming out. Look.
It's easy for me to sit here as an Everton fan, and it would be easy for a Liverpool fan to sit here and slag Manchester United. And it is easy to do that at the moment. But if Man United don't get a result, and I mean if Man United don't win tomorrow night, if it's a 1-1 draw, or if it's a 0-0 draw, or if it's a 2-2 draw, that means Man United's last 3 games have been a draw with Burnley, a draw with Southampton, and a draw with Brighton. United don't deserve top 4 football if that's the case. They don't deserve Europa League football if that's the case. And maybe, like you said earlier on, and I mentioned to you earlier on as well, maybe United do have to go down the Arsenal route. Just do a reset. Get rid of the players like Ronaldo. Get rid of Pogba. I know he's probably the best midfielder he's have, but if he doesn't want to be there, then he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, they
need a complete reset. They need to go out and recruit footballers that want to play for the club, that aren't there for their own egos, that aren't leaking stuff to the press, that want to play for the manager even though he's only there for 5 months. And just get back to winning ways, because obviously, listen, on paper you could say Manchester United squad are probably a top 4 team, but they're not playing like a top 4 team. There's too many individuals, there's too many. And like obviously the worst thing they probably did was loan out Donny van de Beek and Martial, because if you had a manager there with any sort of balls on, he'd turn around to Ronaldo or Rashford and say, "You're dropped, Martial, you're in," and he'd play Donny van de Beek for the rest of the season. But what happened is that you alienated 2 players so much to the point that they wanted to leave the club. I mean, who doesn't want to turn around and play? Who doesn't want to play for Manchester United as a player?
I think there's
incredible.
A lot of players that don't want to play for Man U at the moment. I don't think the young, up-and-coming, world-class young players are looking at Man United anymore and thinking, I want to go to that team. And it for me, like, it all stems from the top, mate. If your owners have got a completely different vision of what success is to the fan base and to the football inside of the club, you've got a massive problem. And I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they said to me, and I thought it was a great comment. They said if the objective of finishing bottom of the league, let's just say in hindsight you couldn't get relegated, yeah? If you could finish bottom of the league, but you got the most money for finishing bottom than what you would get going upwards, and whoever wins the league gets the least money, that would be Man U's objective. And that really stuck with me, and that hit me deep, because I was like, whoa. And I was like, I don't know if that's the case. And then when I actually dissected what was said in that, I thought, you know what? That's the Super League. That was the Super League. That's what they tried to do. So I can't sit here and say, nah, you're way off with that. Because they tried to do that. And I feel like when you're playing for owners that generally don't care about the club with regards to the infrastructure, the youth system, the bigger picture of the club, this is what happens. There's players there that shouldn't be there anymore that got new contracts. They give Matter a new contract on 100 and something grand a week. He's played about 3 games. Like, his legs have gone. Matter's a very good footballer, but shouldn't have been given a 2-year or 3-year deal. And it's just the bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And everyone can gloat about, you've spent nearly £1 billion. Yeah, okay, we have. That's fine. I'm all right with that. But what we've bought with it, half of the players ain't even there no more. Do you know
or
what I
don't
mean?
want to be there.
And don't want to be there. And when you're spending, it's all commercial value signings. Varane was he was a big world-class signing. Let's go and sign Varane, which I'm delighted we've got Varane, by the way. I'm not saying he's a bad signing. But there was other defensive options we could have got that could have brought a different quality to the team that would have given us more money to go and buy a defensive midfielder, for example. But we bought Varane. I'm really happy with Varane. Thank God we've got Varane. But Ronaldo was brought back. It was commercially viable for them to do that deal. Like Man U, they are looking at deals not from a footballing perspective. They're looking at, well, he'll cost us 15 million from Juventus, but he'll make us 100 million in shirt sales. Like, there's no secret why Man U are in the state they are. And when that drifts from the top down, this is what happens. And I'm convinced Ranić ain't got the running of the team. And I said this on a show last night as well. I wish he would walk, because I feel really sorry for him, because he's got a philosophy and his reputation dragged through the mud. This guy is known as the professor. You know what I mean? And there is no professor in how we're playing at the moment, because he isn't being allowed to do it his way. And that comes from the top. That's a great comment, by the way. That is a great comment. That's the way it is. They didn't want to go out and buy the best defender in Europe for 5 million more. At the time, Koulibaly was the best. Everyone was saying he's as good as Van Dijk at the time, and they didn't want to pay it, and they went and paid for Maguire. And now they're suffering for it, and it's just bad recruitment. You buy bad players, you buy players that don't have the desire to be at the club, or they're not there for the right reasons. You end up with what's happening now, and that's all. I'm just going to leave it at that, because I could talk all night about it.
I just want to go back to Kane's comment here. We'll play Pogba ahead of Donny. Personally, that's fine. On paper, Pogba is obviously a far superior footballer than Donny van de Beek. But there's a difference there in terms of that Donny van de Beek actually wants to play for the club and Pogba doesn't. And when it comes down to it, when it's 1-1 against Burnley, when it's piss and rain, who's going to try the hardest for the club? Pogba, who has 5 months left on his contract and probably knows he's going somewhere else at the end of the season, or Donny van de Beek, who is in the middle of a 5-year contract and would die to get into the starting 11 every week. It's not going to get any worse, so why not just play Donny van de Beek? It baffles me that Manchester United fans love Pogba so much, and yeah, he's a fantastic footballer. There's no denying that. He's World Cup winner, Champions League winner, or whatever, all this kind of crap. He's a fantastic footballer. I just think his attitude stinks. And when you're a club like Manchester United at the moment, who are literally clinging on to fourth spot, the only reason why Manchester United are still in fourth spot or in and around fourth spot is because the teams around them are losing. That's the only reason why. And when you need to grab a team, is Pogba the man to do that? If United go 1-0 down, is Pogba the man to drag United through the mud? Is any player in that Manchester United squad, Ronaldo included, Harry Maguire, captain's armband, any player in that squad, man enough to basically take that 500 to £1 billion squad and get them into fourth spot at the end of the season? I don't think Manchester United have one player in that squad that want to do that. And the funny thing about the whole thing is, the one player, well, I could probably say it about probably McTominay as well. So 2 players, Donny van de Beek and McTominay, from the outside looking in, for me, are the only 2 players who actually want to play for Manchester United. The rest of them are just there for the wage. And that's just me looking from the outside in, to be honest with you. Obviously, Manchester United fans probably think different. They probably think...
Yeah, I don't
And
agree
maybe Bruno,
with that.
maybe Bruno, maybe Bruno as well. But you could list, if you put it this way, Jamie, right? If you have a starting 11 for Manchester United, you'd struggle to get 4 players that are there and that are willing to die for the club in the starting 11.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I don't agree with everything you said there, but not in a disrespectful way. I don't mean that. Like,
No, I just think it's from
yeah,
the outside
I
looking
think you're
in.
spot on. Yeah, of course, mate. I think you're spot on with what you're saying. Like, I just disagree. I think there's probably a bit more than like them 2 players. Bruno, David De Gea. I'd say Sancho's there for the right reasons. Varane as well. Dalot gives 100%. But I don't think you're far off with what you're saying. The issue is for Man U, they're gonna need a massive rebuild. The thing is, they need the right manager to be given the reins, and I don't think it's gonna happen. There's too many people that are involved with the Glazers in that club. Like, it's snake after snake after snake when you start filtering down. And they're all in it for the same reason. I just don't think any manager is going to be given free reign to say, right, you take care of the footballing side of things. If you want X, Y, this is, for example, just to finish off on this, because we're going off topic with the United chat, but this is how I see it, right? And Reese is a United fan, so's Keen's in the comments, right? So if you don't agree with me, boys, let me know. If one Pep went into Man City, right? He got rid of Joe Hart straight away. I don't want him. He doesn't play my style of football. Joe Hart's arguably a City legend. He was one of the best goalkeepers in Europe at the time. And now he's obviously well again, which I quite like Celtic. So it's nice to see his career's going back on track. But he went in there and said what he wanted. When Klopp went into Liverpool, he put that gegenpress into place. He didn't have the players to get the results with it, but he set the benchmark of, look, this is how I am going to play. If you can't play that role, I'm going to sign someone else. And gradually, he's got the team that they've got now, and he was allowed to get rid of whoever he wanted. He done it with Benteke. He went straight away. With Man U, if Ten Hag or Enrique, I can see Reese's linked some managers, if they come in the summer and they're given a 4-year contract and they go, right, okay, I don't want Rashford. He doesn't fit my style of play. He's got to go. The board would be like, whoa, don't Rashford. No, can't get rid of him. Problem right there. I'm just picking Rashford up because he's a Mancunian. The fan base love him. Or any player, if he goes in there and he doesn't want X, Y, and Z, you can't get rid of Maguire. We paid 80 million for him. He's got a 4-year contract left. And that's the problem right there. The manager of Man United isn't allowed to do what he wants to do. It happened with Jose. Jose wanted certain players. Did I agree with the players he wanted? No. But he wasn't allowed them. He didn't get backed. He wasn't allowed to get rid of Pogba. He didn't want Pogba. They kept him. They got rid of Mourinho. And that's it with Man U. That's it. That's the only way I can describe it. And I don't know if the boys agree with me, but that's how I see it. The Glazers are never going to allow a manager to run the club the way they want. And it's exactly the reason why we didn't get Antonio Conte.
And my personal opinion with Pogba, right, and I'll just finish on this as well, right? See what Barcelona did with Dembele. Sign the contract or you're gone. Simple as that. Sign the contract or you're being sold.
He took them for a ride as well, man.
He took them for a ride, whatever. But that's what you need to do with players like this. Pogba, if you don't want to play for Manchester United, and Kane said he scored the winner against Burnley or he scored the equaliser against Burnley or whatever like that. That's great. That's what he's paid to do. He's paid to play football and he's paid to be a top 10 midfielder in the whole world and all this kind of crack. If he doesn't want to be at that club, you get somebody else in who wants to be at the club. It's as simple as that. Barcelona did it with Dembele, paid 130 odd million for him. They offered him 250 grand a week and a 5-year deal and said, you're going to be our guy going forward. And he wouldn't sign the contract. And they said, right, find a new club. Good luck. You're not playing for this club anymore because we only want players who want to be at this club. And I think, like you say, Joe Glazer won't let a manager do that, but that's what Man United need going forward because there's too many players in there that don't want to be
Reese has said it in the comments. Like, Reese is bang on the money again with the comments. Cheers for getting involved in the show, as always, Reese. Like he said with the comment there about Eto'o and Zlatan, Ronaldinho, Pep was allowed to get rid of them at Barcelona and create his own team. It just won't happen at Man United. That's why, unless something dramatically changes and they come with the mindset of, right, these big names have got to go. We've got to start again. Like, let's start afresh. And if they'd done that, I would buy into the fact, and I would sit here and say to you on this show, Matt, look, don't worry about us for the next 3 to 4 years. We're trying to build something again. And I would be quite happy with that process if it meant in the 5th season, we're going to go with it. And that's why people might disagree with me here, but Wayne Rooney's been linked with the United job. I wouldn't be against him getting it if they were going to give him patience and let him lead the team, because he ain't going to be overawed by it. There's not a player coming into that dressing room that's going to think they're better than the manager because he didn't play a good level. And that's I am really warming to that. I don't know whether they'll look at that. I'm not sure. But
it's one of those situations where Man United need to realise where they are. And I had to deal with Everton as well. Everton had a billionaire owner come in and spend 500 million, and we ended up being a relegation battle. I think the sooner Manchester United as a club, their fan base all realise that they're no longer a top 4 club at the moment, because they aren't. There's 3 or 4 teams that are better than Manchester United in terms of league position and in terms of actually playing better football than them. But I think Man United, like we said it earlier, I think Man United need to go down the Arsenal route, and like you say, give the job to Rooney for 2 or 3 seasons, give him a couple of windows. He'll turn around as well and say to players, if you don't want to play for Manchester United, you can leave, because he's a Manchester United legend. Obviously, it's tough for me to say that because I'd like him to be an Everton legend, but he's more of a Manchester United legend than he is an Everton legend. He's done more for Manchester United than he did, but Everton.
The fan base would get behind him, man. Like 100%, they would get behind him, and I just feel for the next manager. If it's Pochettino, it sends out the wrong message to the fans, I think, because I don't think Pochettino is going to be the answer, because he's more up the ladder with regards to what you expect from a man. I know he hasn't won anything, but it's a case of, if it's not a Ten Hag or it's not a Rooney or someone like that that's an up-and-coming manager, like, I feel like that's what we need, and we need a lot of patience. I said to Keane outside Old Trafford the other day, we're done, man. We've got to be realistic and start again.
Yeah.
Whether the board allow us to start again or not is a completely different story. And the summer will say everything, because United are 6, maybe 7 players. I don't think they can do it, to be honest with you. But
yeah,
we'll have
it's going
to
to be
wait
interesting. It's going to be interesting. Like, if Arsenal and Spurs get their act together, they'll soon be ahead of United. And listen, it might sound like I'm bashing United. I'm just being honest.
Nah,
I just don't see. I don't
you've been
see.
good to listen to, mate.
I think. Listen, if a team's playing good football, I'll always praise them for playing good football. United are playing dross football at the moment, and they don't deserve to be in the top 6. There's teams there like the likes of West Ham. You could say Arsenal have come up there as well. Wolves are doing bits at the moment as well. They're all playing better football than Manchester United at the moment. But listen, we'll leave it there. We're not going to get too much into it. We always seem to talk way too much about Manchester United, and I'm sure I have a lot of Manchester United fans in the comments. I think everyone in the comments is Manchester United fans. They probably all hate me, but listen, we're going to be back again next Monday. Chat about it again. 2 games for Manchester United. Listen, if Manchester United turn around and get 6 points in the next 2 games, I'm sure Manchester United fans will be a lot happier, and the table will look a bit different. I'm sure they'll probably put one foot nicely in the top 4 spot there as well. But if they don't win those 2 games, we'll be back talking about Manchester United again next week.
Fixtures this weekend, ain't there? So yeah, it's like you say, if United are a big talking point at the moment, so I don't think we need to be too harsh by dissecting it a little bit. I think that's what it's about. It's the Premier League, isn't it? And they're the talk of the town at the moment. But big shout out to everyone that's got in the comments tonight as well. The Crystal Palace lads, Reese as usual, Amy's there, Kino. Brilliant. I really enjoyed this, Matt, to be fair. And I think you made some really good points on United, mate. Fantastic.
You as well.
And look forward to next week and getting stuck into what's happened over the weekend. There's so much to play for from every aspect of the league at the moment. So it's exciting. And yeah, spot on. Fresh air tonight. Good to listen to. Good man.
Same to you, man. Exactly. Listen, guys, like the stream, share it around. Obviously subscribe to the channel and stuff like that, and get involved. You can obviously, like, I'm on Twitter as well. You can follow me on Twitter, and we can have a discussion. I'll have a discussion with anybody on Twitter. I'll have an argument. I'll have opinions. No problem whatsoever. Jamie's on Twitter as well. You can follow him. Jamie, what's your @ on Twitter? Do you know?
Yeah, sorry, I should have had it on the screen. I'll have it next week. It's just at Jam Mackay 1989. You'll catch me over there talking all types of different rants on football. But if anybody wants me and Matt are obviously going to be doing this. We're both learning. We actually didn't know each other before we've come on this, so we're both learning. Hence why I asked him if he plays football earlier. So we're both learning. We're both getting used to how each other works and how we want to come across on the channel. But if anybody's watching this that hasn't commented tonight, that supports a certain team in the Premier League, and you want us to discuss your, and just either hit us up on Twitter, give us a DM, or just send us a tweet saying, can you discuss this next week, or put in the comments at the start of next week's show, and we'll delve into your club. Because this isn't just, we don't just come on here to talk football because we fancy a chat between each other. We want to entertain people, and if there's anyone's got any fresh ideas that you want brought onto the shows each week, whether we pinpoint a certain club from the league each week, any new ideas, anything you would like to see, this is your show. So we want to entertain you. So any ideas, any discussions you want, and if you want us to talk about a specific player, if he's out of form, in form, goalkeeper, potential signings, give us a shout and we'll delve into everything. We'll be here every Monday, 7:30 or 7, 7:30, one of the two. And we're as you can see, we like to talk, particularly me. So let's do it, and look forward to next week episode involved.
Kane, who actually runs the channel himself, throwing topics at us. That's great. So we'll get stuck into that next week. Rooney at Derby. Rooney's only 4 points off getting Derby out of the relegation zone in the Championship. It's absolutely incredible. So yeah, we'll definitely touch on that next week. And guys, like the stream, share the stream, subscribe to the channel, and listen. I've been Matt Smith. He's been Jamie McCoy, and we'll see you next Monday. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Peace out.
Take it easy, guys.